On the surface, it seems like something small. Someone makes a sarcastic comment and your mood plummets. A light criticism at work, and you spend the rest of the day brooding. A message read but not replied to is enough to spark anxiety. Small provocations, minimal frustrations, sidelong glances, all of this has the power to completely destabilize your internal world. And you may not even realize it, but this says more about your imprisonment than about the people around you. We live today in a highly sensitive and deeply reactive society. But reactivity, despite seeming spontaneous, is a psychological conditioning. The brutal truth is that when you react emotionally to everything, you are not living freely. You are acting like a slave. A sophisticated slave, of course, who believes they are in control, but whose internal peace can be completely hijacked by a poorly phrased sentence, a gesture of disdain, or an opinion that contradicts their beliefs. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and master of Stoicism, called this state slavery to impressions. In his work Meditations, he writes that human suffering is not caused by things themselves, but by the judgments we make about them. When someone insults us, what hurts us is not the words themselves, but the immediate judgment that it is unacceptable, unfair, intolerable. This judgment triggers an emotional cascade that ultimately drags us along like puppets. The most unsettling part is that this is predictable. Emotionally reactive people are easy to read, easy to manipulate. Their buttons are exposed, visible, and anyone who wishes to gain an advantage, whether in a relationship, a debate, or a power struggle, just needs to press the right triggers. This creates a society where control is not exerted through brute force, but through emotional engineering. We are controlled not with chains, but with words. And this should be more frightening than any physical threat. But there is a rare type of person who lives on another frequency. You provoke them. They do not react. You try to expose them. They remain silent. You try to destabilize them. They respond with an almost disconcerting calm. It is not coldness. It is not sociopathic indifference. It is a type of internal mastery that confuses others because it is extremely rare. These people have mastered a forgotten art, a state that the Stoics called apatheia, not absence of feeling, but emotional freedom. They are people who have cut the invisible strings that most of us don't even know we carry. And that is why this video is not about being impassive. It is about being sovereign. It is about learning, like Marcus Aurelius, to discipline your internal judgments so that no criticism, offense, or provocation can penetrate your core. Because, as he himself wrote, you have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Throughout this video, we will dive into the mental techniques and psychological practices that allow for the construction of this state of unshakable serenity. It is not about esoteric theory or hollow motivational phrases. It is about practical psychic engineering, reconfiguring your response system so that you stop being predictable and become inscrutable. This is a video for those who are tired of living reactively, tired of feeling exposed, vulnerable, emotionally manipulated, tired of losing themselves inside because of what happens outside. You can continue living as you are, reacting to the world like a programmed puppet, or you can start now to disconnect the strings. In this video, you will learn how to become so unshakable that you confuse people. In the contemporary world, being unbothered has become synonymous with emotional coldness. A blasé persona, indifferent, disconnected from reality. Someone who simply doesn't care. But this view is shallow and distorted. True emotional invulnerability does not arise from contempt or denial of emotions. It is the result of deep, deliberate, almost surgical internal work where one learns to govern their own inner world with the same precision that an emperor governs an empire. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by external wars and internal betrayals, wrote a phrase that should be carved into the minds of all who seek emotional freedom. The soul becomes invincible when it refuses to allow any external event to disturb it. And what does this mean in practice? It means that the state of unshakable serenity is not passivity. It is presence. It is not the absence of emotion. It is mastery over the judgment that transforms stimulus into suffering. What makes an insult painful is not the sound of the words, but the belief you attribute to them. This is a humiliation. This is an attack. This cannot happen to me. When you remove that judgment, when you see the words as mere vibrations in the air, they lose their power. Not because you don't feel, but because you choose not to amplify. Being unbothered is not about not reacting. It is about reacting with sovereignty. It is the ability to observe the world around you, including provocations and absurdities, without being dragged by them. It is looking at an insult and thinking, it's just a noise. It's just a reflection of the other, not of me. This active neutrality is true power, and it confuses because it completely escapes the emotional logic of most. The truth is that the average human lives reacting like a conditioned animal. Give them attention and they become animated. Ignore them and they despair. Provoke them and they explode. Most people are emotionally predictable, and that is why they are easy to control. Their reactions follow such clear patterns that they can be manipulated with a simple comment or a calculated gesture. The one who masters their reactions, on the other hand, becomes an anomaly in the system. They do not dance to the music. They listen, evaluate, and decide if it is worth dancing, and almost always, it is not worth it. This person, who seems immune, untouchable, almost invincible, was not born that way. They trained. They reconfigured the way they perceive reality. They learned to place filters between stimulus and response. They learned to interpret events objectively, without the drama that the mind tends to project. And the result of this is that they do not become destabilized. They remain centered, present, aware. And this is deeply uncomfortable for those who live to manipulate, control, and extract reactions from others. The unbothered state is, therefore, a construction, an internal system built on stoic foundations that challenge the way you have been conditioned to live. It is not about not feeling. It is about feeling with maturity. It is not about ignoring. It is about observing without losing oneself. It is not about being cold. It is about being free. But how to build this state? How, in practice, to develop this invisible armor against the emotional attacks of everyday life? Marcus Aurelius not only theorized about this, he left a manual, and it all starts with a single transformative idea: the dichotomy of control. It is about this that we will talk in the next part. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Before any technique, before any change in behavior, there is a mental foundation that needs to be established. A truth so simple and so powerful that, if truly internalized, it can completely redefine your relationship with the world. The dichotomy of control. Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics began their days with this reminder: some things are up to me, others not. This phrase, at first glance trivial, hides an internal revolution. The key to emotional freedom is to clearly and continuously recognize that all the suffering we feel in the face of the external world arises from the illusion of control over what we cannot control. You do not control what others think of you. You do not control whether you will be praised or ignored. You do not control whether you will be loved, betrayed, respected, or despised. You control solely and exclusively how you interpret what happens. This radical separation between what is under your domain, your judgments, your actions, your choices, and what is outside, everything else, is the foundation of true emotional invulnerability. Marcus Aurelius, even being the most powerful man in the world, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But why is this understanding so difficult? Because we have been programmed from an early age to seek control where there is none, wanting others to understand us, expecting the world to treat us fairly, wishing everything happens according to our plans. This expectation generates frustration, anger, resentment. And it is precisely there that we lose power. Imagine someone insults you. If you believe that the offense has the power to hurt you, you have already ceded control. You are saying, "My peace depends on what this person said." But if you apply the dichotomy of control, the scenario changes completely. The insult belongs to the other. The judgment of the insult is yours. You can observe, analyze, breathe, and let it pass. You maintain your sovereignty. The mind that deeply understands this becomes a fortress. Events cease to be tragedies. Criticisms become data. Failures become lessons, because everything is filtered through a consciousness that understands, I do not control what happens, but I control how I interpret. And the more you practice this filter, the more provocateurs lose power over you. They say what they want, and you do not react. They ignore you, and you remain stable. They try to manipulate your emotions, and you observe in silence. And that is where the disconcert arises, because the emotional game only works with those who still play. When you step out of the arena, the manipulator loses their weapon. Being unbothered, then, starts here. Training your mind to recognize, in every moment, what is under your control and what is not. Every time something affects you, ask, is this under my domain? If it is not, why would I allow it to govern my internal state? But this is not merely a rational practice. It is a discipline, a continuous reprogramming of how you perceive the world. And to make it truly functional, Marcus Aurelius offers us a technique as powerful as it is counterintuitive, to describe the most painful events with a clinical, almost absurd objectivity. In the next part, you will discover how to transform insults and offenses into mere vibrations in the air, and how this change in internal language can destroy the root of almost all emotional suffering. Most people believe they suffer because of facts. But Stoicism teaches us something much deeper and disturbing. We do not suffer because of what happens. We suffer because of the story we tell about what happens. Marcus Aurelius developed a rigorous mental practice he called objective representation. A technique simple in form but revolutionary in effect, to describe life events in a radically neutral, raw way, without emotional adjectives, as if you were a clinical observer, without personal involvement. By doing this, you deactivate the emotional trigger that usually accompanies events. Imagine the following. Someone insults you. The automatic reaction would be to think, he disrespected me. How absurd. What an injustice. And with that, anger arises, the ego inflates, and you enter a cycle of suffering. But Marcus Aurelius proposes an alternative. Describe the same event like this. A person moved their vocal cords, producing sounds that my brain interpreted as negative words. Does it sound ridiculous? Great. That's the point. By reducing the insult to its physical component, sound vibrations, moving air, waves hitting the eardrum, you break the spell. The emotional charge that seemed inevitable dissolves. The event is just that, an event. It is not an offense. It is not an injustice. It is not a tragedy. It is vibrating air. This practice can be applied to everything. You were not betrayed. Someone acted according to their own impulses. You were not wronged. A set of actions occurred outside your expectation. You did not lose everything. You are facing a new scenario with fewer resources than before. Each of these reframings removes the dramatic subjective element, and by doing this, you cut the automatic link between the event and the emotion. You break the bond between stimulus and suffering. This does not mean ignoring reality or pretending it is beautiful. On the contrary, it is to face it with brutal honesty, without emotional makeup. Objective representation is an act of radical lucidity, a constant training of the mind to see things as they are, not as your impulses want them to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself every day, reducing events to their basic components. Did someone offend me? Perhaps. But that does not harm me. It is just an external opinion. He mentally dismantled the event until there was no fuel left for suffering. And this daily habit made him free. Now think, how many times have you fed your suffering just with words? How many times have you reinforced your pain with an inflamed narrative, repeated mentally until it became unbearable? What if you cut the root of that narrative? What if you trained your mind to see what is, and not what your emotion wants it to be? This technique is not easy. It requires discipline and vigilance, but by applying it, you distance yourself from the emotional reactivity that enslaves most people. And the more you practice it, the more you become indecipherable, unattainable, confusing to others. But the question is how to maintain this perspective when everything seems too intense. How to stay calm when the world seems to be crumbling. Marcus Aurelius also had an answer for that. A technique that involves changing your point of view so drastically that suddenly everything that seemed large becomes invisibly small. In the next part, we will explore the transcendental power of the Stoic technique known as view from above, and how it can dissolve anxieties in seconds by showing you how irrelevant the problems that today seem unbearable really are. There is a type of suffering that arises not from pain itself, but from the illusion of importance. The human ego, anxious, needy, dramatic, wants to believe that everything revolves around it, that every offense is personal, every mistake is unforgivable, every problem is immense and urgent. And it is precisely this illusion of centrality that keeps you trapped in the cycle of reactivity. Marcus Aurelius once again offers us an escape, the mental technique of the view from above, or as he himself described it, seeing things as if you were looking from very, very far away. Imagine for a moment that you could leave your body, rise a few meters, then higher. You see your neighborhood, your city, the country, and you keep rising, continents, oceans, the entire planet. You continue ascending until you leave Earth behind. Now from space, the blue planet is just a suspended dot in the black vastness of the universe. Keep rising. Galaxies, nebulae, billions of stars, solar systems, worlds, and down there, you. A human fragment surrounded by other fragments in conflict over words, titles, likes, vanities. This visualization practice is not spiritual fantasy. It is a precise psychological maneuver used by Marcus Aurelius to neutralize exaggerated emotional reactions. In his meditations, he repeatedly invites us to look from above, to observe the comedy of life, with the detachment of someone who sees the whole picture. Think of the vastness of time and space, and you will see how insignificant human dramas are. The insult you received today, invisible on a cosmic scale. The betrayal, a microscopic event on a lost planet. The public humiliation, a muffled whisper in the eternity of time. This exercise provokes a healthy collapse of the ego. It breaks the illusion of grandeur of your suffering, shifting your perception to something greater, impersonal, and true. The universe doesn't care about your problems, and this, instead of being depressing, is liberating. You don't have to carry the world on your shoulders. You don't need to win every battle. You don't have to react to every provocation. Because in the end, none of this matters as much as your mind makes it seem. Perceived insignificance is not a sentence of apathy. It is a key to tranquility. It is the antidote to drama. And the beauty of this technique is that it can be practiced at any moment of tension. Just close your eyes Mentally zoom out and ask, will this matter in 100 years, and in 10, and even tomorrow? In the overwhelming majority of cases, the answer will be no. And with that, you interrupt the cycle of suffering before it even begins. The view from above is a kind of cosmic recalibration of perspective. It reminds you of what is truly small and what is truly great. Your inner serenity, your awareness, your ability to choose your response. But even with this new perspective, the world will still test you. People will still act unjustly. Difficult situations will still arise. And that's where another Stoic technique comes in, perhaps the most uncomfortable of all, to imagine every day the worst possible scenario. In the next part, we will explore how negative visualization can emotionally prepare you for everything you fear most, and turn even the worst days into exercises of mental strength. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebooks. Beyond the Shadow breaks down Jung's core ideas, while Dialogues with the Unconscious gives you a 30-day path to apply them in your life. Both are linked in the pinned comment. We live in a culture that idolizes positive thinking. We are taught to affirm, to visualize the best scenario, to repel any negative thought as if it were poison. But what if the poison lies in avoiding those ideas? What if what emotionally destroys us is not the difficult events, but the fact that we are caught off guard by them? Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics believed exactly that. And that's why they practiced every day what seems like a sacrilege to the modern mindset, calmly and clearly imagining everything that could go wrong. This practice is called negative visualization, premeditatio malorum, and its logic is as brutal as it is liberating. If you train your mind to accept the arrival of the worst, then nothing can surprise you, and therefore, nothing can shake you. Imagine starting your day by telling yourself, today I will probably be criticized. I might be ignored, I could be betrayed, ridiculed, discredited. People will treat me with disrespect, and things beyond my control will go wrong. But none of this will have the power to disturb me, because none of it belongs to what truly matters. By anticipating negative events as possible, and not as impossible, you build an emotional shield. You kill the surprise, which is the true trigger of pain. The problem is not the criticism, it's expecting approval and receiving disdain. The problem is not failure, it's believing in victory as guaranteed. The shock between expectation and reality is what breaks the emotional state of most people. The Stoics eliminate the shock by removing the expectation. And there's more. By visualizing the worst-case scenarios, you not only prepare the mind, you also relativize the impact. You begin to realize that even the events you fear the most, being rejected, losing someone, failing publicly, are just human experiences. Challenging, yes, but transient. And by facing them head-on, you reduce their power over you. The monster you face loses its teeth. Marcus Aurelius constantly wrote about the impermanence of things, including pain. He said, "All these things that now seem to oppress you have already oppressed others before you, and many, after you, will also face them. None of them are new. All are bearable." Negative visualization is not pessimism. It is strength. It is courage. It is saying, even if everything goes wrong, I will be okay. And by cultivating this strength, something fascinating happens. When the worst doesn't happen, and it almost never does, you feel at an advantage. Everything becomes a bonus. The respect you didn't expect, the opportunity that arose, the unexpected kindness, everything turns into psychological profit. And perhaps the most powerful effect of this practice is the following. It breaks the emotional dependence on good luck. You no longer need the world to treat you well to stay balanced. You don't need guarantees to move forward, because you have trained your mind to be strong even when everything is against you. But there is one final question that Marcus Aurelius liked to ask, and that cuts any emotional reaction at the root. If I died tomorrow, would this have mattered? In the next part, we will explore the transformative power of the meditation on death and how remembering your own mortality can be the key to maintaining calm, clarity, and focus even in the most chaotic situations of life. If you knew that tomorrow would be your last day of life, would you still care about the unanswered message, about the hurtful comment, about the unfair criticism, the gratuitous offense, the silent rejection? The answer, for any lucid person, is no. Because in the face of death, everything that seemed significant reveals itself to be trivial. Every hurt loses its meaning. Every dispute dissolves. The reminder of finitude has a brutal power. It purifies. Marcus Aurelius, even being the emperor of Rome, repeated to himself like a mantra, "You will die. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, and everything you are living now will be erased." But he did not say this with bitterness. He said it with relief. Because by remembering his own death, he regained the correct perspective, what really matters. The Stoic practice of memento mori, remember that you will die, is not morbidity, it is clarity. It is a sharp blade that cuts through illusions. When you contemplate your mortality every day, you become less manipulable, less affected, less vulnerable. Because you already know what is at stake and what is not. You stop worrying about others' approval because you realize that even those who judge you will also die. You stop wasting time on resentments because you understand that your life is too short to feed them. You become more present, more aware, more serene. Because death reminds you that every moment is a miracle that will not be repeated. And more than that, you become freer. Free to not respond, free to not retaliate, free to not care. Because what others say, think, or expect simply carries no weight compared to the undeniable fact that everything ends, including you. And that is why truly unbothered people confuse others. Because they are not playing the same emotional game. They do not need to win debates, prove their worth, defend themselves, or counterattack. They know the secret. All of this disappears in the inevitable silence of death. So they choose to live lightly, with focus, with peace. This is the essence of Marcus Aurelius's Stoicism. It is not about being cold, it is about being free. Free from the need for control, free from the dependence on validation, free from the illusion of permanence. It is looking at the chaos of the world and still keeping the mind in silence. Because nothing, absolutely nothing, has more power over you than you yourself. And if you have made it this far, you are no longer the same person who started this video. Now you know that the state of unshakable serenity is not inaccessible. It is trainable, it is practicable, and it is absolutely necessary, especially in a world that profits from your reaction. So now it's up to you. Comment below. I choose not to react. If this video has awakened you, if something inside you understood that it is time to disconnect the emotional wires that others tighten so easily. And don't stop here. The next video is a continuation of this path. It is just as important as this one, and it can give you another key to continue this process of psychological liberation. Watch now, because your mind deserves more than slavery disguised as sensitivity.